Good evening, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee. Welcome to Community Conversation. We're here every Wednesday evening for the last 7 months or so, and intend to continue this community conversation because it's very valuable. In this case, we're bringing on people weekly talking about the impact that the COVID-19 has had on their lives, on their professions, on their families, and topics range from issues that are directly related to small businesses and to issues that have to do with racial justice issues, communities that have been impacted, disproportionately to others and why. And we've had people who are involved with the adoption process and what that means. We've had last week we've had doctors on talking about, the COVID and the vaccinations and the safety issues. Tonight, we're going to talk to individuals that are, on the front line. We know that there's many individuals that in our state that can work from home, but we have many people who can't work from home. And so for them to get a paycheck and to earn a living, they put themselves at risk. And but what we want to talk about is how do we coach people and how do we hear from individuals, how are they keeping themselves safe? Because right now, safety is a high priority. The vaccines that are going to be distributed are a high priority. But until we have the infection rates under control, containing those, until we get the vaccinations out, schools are not going to reopen. We need to make sure our teachers get vaccinated and all the staff in our schools. Frontline staff, our schools are not going to open up fully unless that happens. So tonight we're going to bring out a couple of people on that are going to talk about their experience, and their experiences represent thousands and thousands of people in the state of Rhode Island. They don't represent every frontline worker that is in a spot where they are interacting and they're working their professions and their jobs, but they are. Certainly their stories represent many, many people. So before I start my comments, I have to mention about what happened in Washington, D.C. today. Clearly, when our Congress session gets halted because people barge in and you have a mob riot type of mentality, and where shots are fired and guns are pulled in our chambers, in our Congress, the U.S. Congress chambers, both House and Senate. This is disturbing. And we have to really understand, I believe, because the president has incited this. The word sedition, which is basically urging people to revolt and go after authority. That's been called for by the president for years. He's the one who planted the seed that elections are rigged. We know that these elections have been looked at thoroughly, yet he still says that the election was stolen. The point that I make is that it impacts people. There are people who really hold the current president as a hero, as a godlike figure. And the extremes, the people who are in DC today they're not representative of all the people who voted for President Trump, but they're representative of an extreme portion of the Trump support that would carry it to a point where they would actually try to take over physically Congress, and to interrupt the process that we pride ourselves in, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat that wins the presidency. We pride ourselves in a transfer of power that is peaceful, and that we all can support the presidents and the policies they represent. And that's what would be happening right now. The president right now has not said that it was a fair election, and there's many people who are going to really respond as they did today. We need to put a stop to this. And then we need to actually call out the president for the behavior that he is really imposing his will because of the hero worshiping that's going on, in my opinion. So if you don't support the new president, I happen to support the vice president, the president-elect Biden. I believe that he represented the part of the party that was centered enough to work against the extremes that are in the very extreme left in our party, and I supported the vice president right from the day one. If you're not a supporter of the president, then the new president that's going to be inaugurated, then start rallying around a candidate that doesn't put their self-interest in front of the country's, as the president did today at the rally, where his surrogates talked about a trial by combat, inflicting this notion that this is the process that we need to do to protect our country. No, what we need to do is go through our Constitution and our procedures, and hopefully tonight the Congress does just that, and they move ahead and create this legitimacy that belongs in our election, so our democracy is not at risk. So I'll just leave it at there. I know everybody has their own personal opinions, but I need to share that. This has got to stop in terms of this adoration of an individual like the president, who has put his self-interest ahead of everybody else's since the election. He had the right to push back against the election results, but it's very clear that count after count after count after count shows that the results, just like in 2016, those counts were legitimate. These counts in 2020 are legitimate. The counts in 2024 will be legitimate. And we need to really understand that. And yet this president continues today to say that he won't concede that election. That's a threat to our democracy. And what happened in Washington today is a direct result of that behavior. So hopefully we're able to move on. And the president, once you're in, you're in. And once you're out, you're out. And let's move on. Let the Republicans find other candidates that they can support that won't carry it to the extreme that this current president has. Thanks for listening. Agree, disagree. That's what we're all about here in America and the United States, is to have the right to take positions. But when it starts threatening our very democracy, I think that we really need to open our eyes up and take a look at what's happening. Things could get significantly worse leading up to January 20th if the president just does not admit that he lost, that election is over, and new elections are going to happen, and new transfer of powers will happen down the line. God bless America, and let's make sure we protect this democracy. Ben, bring on our guests, please. Hey, Katie, how are you?
Hey,
Ben, thank you for being here. Yeah, and Victoria and Ben, thank you so much for being here tonight. We know that many of our people who work in the state of Rhode Island, we had a program a few weeks back, and I've had these community focus group meetings. We had one in Cranston a week ago. We'll be in Warren next week. We've been in Westerly, Central Falls, and I'm going to be all around the state of Rhode Island. But we know that safety is a big issue right now, but we also know that people need to earn a paycheck. People have a inherent responsibility in the work that they do to teach young kids. We have people who are going to take some level of risks and travel during the holidays. And the articles that I've read is that we don't need to be judgmental about that, but we need to provide the tools so that if somebody is in a spot where they inherently needs to take some level of risk because of they need to earn a living to put food on their table and pay their mortgages and their rents, to talk about how that's really being done. And those who are going to take certain risks and gather around a Christmas dinner without understanding that they should have stayed home with their immediate family, then if they're going to do that, we need to kind of continue to coach along in terms of how to minimize that risk if you're willing to take a risk. But what I want to do is first, we're going to go around. I'll start with Vin. Just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and then the work that you do. And then, both as an elected official, Vin, and also as a professional. And then as we go around, we'll have everybody introduce themselves. And then we will kind of get into a conversation about how the COVID has impacted us personally and also professionally. But Vin, please introduce yourself and welcome to our community conversation.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate the offer to be here, and I appreciate you involving the community in ways that you've been doing over the past few months. I appreciate that. Again, Vinny Turchetta, born and raised in Cranston. I've been a public school teacher for about 28 years. I also teach at CCRI at night. I've been doing that for about 20 years. And about 6 years ago, I was elected as one of the school committee members in Cranston. So regarding our current situation as far as the pandemic, it's just been inconsistent in at least the work that I'm doing. And that's for myself as a teacher and for the kids that come to school. I'm also a coach at Cranston West for football. And, the students talk about inconsistency. The students / players, actually, we were allowed to have practice. And then at the end, just before the season began, our governor, and the word came down that we couldn't have football practice. So again, the point I'm trying to make is it's been inconsistent and frustrating. Thank you.
Yeah, and Vin, as a coach, and I certainly, know how important coaches are. I coached a great deal of basketball myself, years working with kids from all over the state, from all different economic situations, all different, type of family conditions. And so as a coach, you're not only, talking about yourself, but you're talking about those young kids that are impacted. So give us a little how you think they're being impacted. What type of response are they having to this? Especially if they're not able to, play a sport that they love, and in particular.
Well, I mean, thinking back to the practices that we had, and by the way, mask practices. Once the clock struck 12 and they were our responsibility, we social distanced. They filled out the forms. Our head coach, Tommy Maluski, very, very, very good at it, followed all the rules and regulations. But it's funny watching the students or the players pull up in cars of 6, 7, 8. They all get out, and then they come to football practice. That most of the adults knew we weren't going to have a season, but yet these young, fine gentlemen get out, and they come to practice, and they're led to believe that we were going to have a football season. Some of them went out, bought $200 cleats. They buy their own equipment, and I can go on and on. It's just very frustrating, as I'm sure, more importantly, it was frustrating for them. That's just. Yeah,
well, it's part of what we're going through right now, and I've been saying we got to dig down deep right now. It's difficult to kind of find the energy to respond, and in a way, as a coach, this is what the example I would use. I would have the kids come together, with 4 or 5 minutes left to go in a game, and somebody's up by 3, 4, 5, 6 points. And I would always point out that you got to finish strong, right? And if you don't, if you had that a lead and the other team worked harder during that last few minutes of a game, you put that that victory at risk. So you got to match the intensity. So this virus is coming at us real strong, and we really need to, I believe, really dig down and really find that intensity about how to, and from the coach's point of view, finishing the game. So that's the things why I'm out talking to the community, because I want to hear about, what's the realities on the ground, and how do we actually address that. Teachers, and I'll get back to you on the teacher thing in terms of the fact that the vaccination issue, which I'm really interested in, and also as a school committee member, you and I share. I do serve as a school committee on the Blackstone Valley Prep Mail Academy, and I'm hearing from the administrators, I'm hearing from the teachers, I'm hearing from the parents, probably in a similar way that you have. So we'll compare those notes shortly. Victoria, please introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Ben. But you carry a couple hats in terms of your employment, right?
Yeah. So my name is Victoria. I originally went to high school in Exeter, West Greenwich. I hold a bachelor's degree in healthcare administration. I have been working at the Thirsty Beaver in Smithfield for a little over 3 years. I bartend and serve there. Recently, with the cutbacks, that the capacity limits that they've made, and bar being gone, because I have a full-time job at Merriam and not everyone has that luxury that works at Beaver, I told my manager that he could let me go for a little while, and I've been doing overtime at the field hospital to make up for the extra income that I lost from the Beaver. So I work for the supply chain. Specifically, I do the operating room at Merriam, so I keep track of all of their supplies for surgery. And at the field hospital right now, I am one of the team members that keeps track of the supply that's inside the field hospital.
Yeah, and so you're seeing firsthand the impact of an increased infection rate, then, right? You're seeing it right in the supply chain. Tell us what that is from your perspective in terms of, since probably been mid-November, we've had, an infection rate that has increased. We've had a hospitalization rate that has increased. But tell us how that impacts you and the people that you work with.
So the supply chain is tough right now because a lot of things are on back order. So a lot of really important supplies that, we may need for surgery, or we may need for the hospital, or even things that could potentially be needed for the field hospital, things aren't being manufactured as fast. They're not being made. And a lot of people throughout the whole country need them. So we're seeing a lot of back orders that, things are trying to come off as fast as they can, but it's not always happening. The field hospital is definitely never something that I thought I would see in my lifetime, but I think that it was put together really, really well. And inside of it, it really does look like any other hospital that you would see, and it has all of the supplies that you would ever need. So, you shouldn't be scared to be there.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the governor got right on top of that in terms of making sure that there was a field hospital, just in case there was some level of, stress that was put on the ability for us to care inside the hospital. So fortunately, we have not had to do a great deal of work in those field hospitals, but it's good to know that we got that there. Tell us quickly, though, about the how long have you worked at the hospital in the supply chain, Victoria?
So I actually was hired in May, right when, the pandemic was kind of rolling up. So I was at the Thirsty Beaver full time before that. And when we had our layoff from March to May, I spent a lot of my free time applying to jobs and applying to hospital jobs, because that's what my degree is in. And ultimately, that's where I wanted to be. So I was taken on at Merriam in May. And I started at the field hospital in November, right when it opened, because it shut down for a little while when we didn't think that we needed it.
Yeah. So were you able to were you impacted by unemployment, for instance? Were you able to receive some dollars there as you were in a full, a new career, a career that you actually trained for, but that you were getting that new job. But so how were you impacted there? And were you able to get some help with the unemployment?
So I was able to get help from March to May, because when I was laid off from the Thirsty Beaver in March, that was my only job at the time. So for 2 months until the restaurants could reopen, I didn't have a job. So I was able to get unemployment, which was really helpful because at the time we had an apartment and we had rent and bills, and we luckily with the unemployment we're making probably what we would have made in the restaurant if we were there. And then I kept my job at Beaver when I went back in May, but I also took the job at the hospital, and I was kind of balancing both. So at that time, I didn't need to collect unemployment anymore when I received the hospital job.
Yeah, so Victoria, I mean, you represent many, many young people in the state that are hard workers that are going to figure it out. So it hasn't been easy, but you have figured out, and then you also put yourself into a spot where the work that you're doing in the hospital or the field hospital is critical to us in terms of, making sure that we're caring for the people who are getting sick. So thank you for being here tonight. We're going to get back to you, but I wanted to have Ben introduce himself as well. Ben, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name's Ben. I was born and raised in Cranston. Went to Cranston High School West. Currently go to SNHU trying to get.
2 thumbs up on that one, Ben. You got to give 2 thumbs up on that one.
I've been working at the Thirsty Beaver in Smithfield for just about 4 years now. I'm a server and a bartender there, and of course go to school full time. So with everything going on, I'd say it's been pretty tough to say the least. It's hard to see all the changes that are going on. It's definitely, it's a battle every day. Every single shift, it's a battle.
So as you're doing the work in the restaurant and you're seeing a change of the change of the restaurant in terms of capacity issues and trying to really how are you kind of responding to that challenge as a member of the staff to try to keep that business alive and have it stay alive during this time, and your thoughts on how long you think that we're going to be at this, trying to figure out how to do this juggling act.
Right. And I think that's everyone's main concern. Someone that's been there, just about 4 years. You try to keep these staff members in mind more than the customers, that everything is temporary. This isn't going to be forever. If you show up to work every day, you put the time in and you do what's right, we're going to get through this. With the capacity and, the bar not being there, I'd say it's really hard for us to kind of keep that same mentality every single day of working hard and doing what we're supposed to do, like we have been before COVID. It's definitely harder for some people than others. It's more of a struggle to make sure that everyone is doing what they're supposed to and they're still working hard, even though the capacity has dropped significantly.
Yeah, every morning, Ben, we have a staff meeting. I've had that every morning. It's virtual, but every morning we start off with our staff. I have seven people that I work with in my office, and I always remind them that doing your best is really hard.
Right.
Doing your best is really hard work. Vin, as a coach, you would know that. Having somebody actually give their best, or even in the classroom, and to give your best, it takes a lot of hard work. And in this scenario, I realize that. That's why I always kind of encourage our staff, whether it's Cheyenne, who's been really helping with these programs, or Rosa, who just kind of commented on the on your persistence and thanking you for your work. But that's hard work. And so give a perspective of, as someone who's working, it sounds like you're in a level of management as well. What is the staff thinking that we can be doing as the vaccine comes out? What's the anticipation right now that you would have of what that business would look like 3 months from now, 6 months from now?
Well, I believe that you always have to stay optimistic. You have to stay positive. In 6 months from now, in a perfect world, we would like everything to go back to normal, like it was, 12 months ago.
Yeah.
It's up in the air every day, but for the people that show up to work every day in hopes that this is going to go away in 6 months, they're doing everything right, and as far as the Beaver goes and many other restaurants, we're all doing everything that we can to make sure that the cases aren't rising, because if the cases continue to rise, the capacity will continue to drop.
Yeah, and that's what I think that one of the things that we need to really analyze is even more specific in terms of the data is where the infections are happening, what communities are they happening, and what communities inside of communities they're happening, and really zero down on that for us to kind of create the flexibility of that we need. One of the things that I've been saying and have been talking to friends and kind of, we want to stay safe, we want to stay positive, and we want to test negative in 2021. That's the plan right now. We need to do everything to make that happen. And you just said about staying positive, staying safe, and I believe that we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can. So when we test, it's a negative test. That's how we're going to reopen. But we're going to get back to everybody, kind of a broader conversation about the roles that we play individually to actually impact that theme that you talked about. Being positive, at the same time staying safe, and then in my opinion, we need to kind of make sure we're testing negative. That's what's going to give us the flexibility as the vaccines roll out. Katie, so you get 2 thumbs up. I was saying to Vin, they get 2 thumbs up for the Cranston. We know that you're a Cumberland business. That's my hometown, so I give 2 thumbs up to Cumberland. It's only right that we do that. We got 39 cities and towns, and then as I travel around our cities and towns and meet with businesses or meet with municipal leaders or whoever, or in the healthcare area, I know that everybody has a pride in that community. But introduce yourself. I know we talked yesterday, but many of the people watching right now are not aware of your business and not aware of the work that you've had to go through to keep your businesses alive. So give us a little overview on that. That'd be
Sure.
great as an introduction.
Well, thank you for having me. And I have to echo what Vin said. Thank you for all the work you've been doing, especially in the small business community. I know you've been a huge advocate, and that's been huge for us. I follow all of your updates, and it's really just been so informative and really reassuring that somebody cares about the small business industry. So thank you very much. So I'm Katie Shabbat. I am co-owner of a boutique fitness facility in Cumberland. I actually was born and raised in Lincoln, not Cumberland, so I know it's a rival. We had a studio in Lincoln. We moved it to Cumberland, so we're happy to be there, right off of Mendon Road. The reason I call us a boutique fitness facility is because we're not just walk in and work out. We're not a big box gym. What our business is based off of is community, health and wellness, fitness, nutrition, and really just getting people in the best physical and mental shape of their lives. And I'm proud to say our community is about 85% women. We do have a lot of men that come in to train with one of our MMA fighters, and we do have them in the classes, but 85% of our community is women. And I'm really proud of that, just being a mom of 2, in my mid-30s, and knowing the stress that a mom and women in that age group go through, anywhere from like 25 to 55, dealing with the kids and all of that. And the reason I bring that up is because during this pandemic, as we know, teachers have done an amazing job, but students are not always in school, and, moms are homeschooling and trying to teach the kids and trying to help. I know I have a kindergartner and her teacher's phenomenal, but I'm still, right there with her, like, Savannah, you gotta cut this page out. And so our facility has brought a lot of health and wellness, but mental wellness for people. And so, during the shutdown, that was the number one thing for our clients that they complained about, was their mental health and the lack of community that they felt. Because at our facility, we have 6,000 square feet. And so we can fit a decent amount of people in a group class. And so 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, you might roll in and see 45, 50 people in class. Now we're at 15. And at some point we weren't even open. So we launched a virtual community, and we had a lot of members who joined and, embraced that, but they always say it's not the same. It's not the same for their mental health, because, here comes the little feet pitter patter down the hallway to open the door and break in during the workout. So, that's why I'm really proud that we're women based, but also that, we provide that, not just that physical and how you look, but how you feel. And that became very, very apparent during this pandemic. So that's been one of our biggest struggles, is how do you keep people engaged, accountable, and mentally well too, because that was their break. So, that's one of the biggest struggles we faced. And then on the opposite side, having a staff that's, frontline and, their paychecks depend on people coming in, taking classes, personal training with them, and that being really reduced. And, my heart goes out to the restaurant folks. So, if you go into a restaurant, tip well. But it's the same thing with our staff, right? Commission based on personal training, and to see their paychecks go down, that's been a struggle too as a business owner. And I know my partner, Nicole, struggles to see that as well, because we really pride ourselves on our community and the clients, but also our staff and how close they are. So it's been tough, but I am proud to say that our Cumberland location is still standing and we have a strong community behind it.
Yeah. So thanks, Katie, for sharing that. And, one of the things that we're working on is, and I know that, a business that I was very involved in for 30 plus years was a fitness center up in Woonsocket. So I can only imagine what you're going through. When we had the banking crisis in the 90s, our revenue dropped by 50% in less than 6 months, because all the local money was tied up in the Marquette Credit Union. And we came very close. We were very much in the middle of the table in terms of being viable as a business. But within 6 months to a year, we were getting very close to the edge. And I know the pressure that it had on me and my family and the people that work with us and our members in general. So that's one of the reasons I take this whole effort on the small business personal, having been there and know the extraordinary stress that can be there. But that fitness approach you're talking about is a equalizer for people's stress. And I know that to be true. So that's why I think that we fought to get, the fitness centers to be considered a frontline, an essential type of business, which I think it is. And I think that you can be safe inside of those businesses. The other thing that we're working on right now is the fact that I think that we still can get more money to the businesses through the CARES Act dollars. For those who are listening, the business community in particular, when the president signed the new stimulus package, that moved a deadline to use the CARES Act dollars that came in 2020 and pushed it into 2021. So we got flexibility to take the dollars that the governor had appropriated to help small businesses, but did not all get awarded. So we can take the difference between what was appropriated, what was awarded, and there's millions of dollars that are available. And we're advocating for a Restore Rhode Island 2 version to help businesses that have already been helped, but also businesses that fell through the cracks and weren't helped. So those are things that, we're going to continue to work to try to get, make sure as many businesses as we can don't fall off the edge of the table. Even if you get close, my message is just be persistent, persevere, because we had to do that probably when I was about your age. So that was a number of years ago, but we had to persevere. And we did not give up. I can tell you, we used every possible effort to make that happen. And I know that today's circumstances are even more difficult, I believe, than what we were going through during the banking crisis or the internet bubble that, after 9/11, or even the real estate crisis that really pressured a lot of our businesses. So, yeah, thanks for your resilience and your persistence there. I wanted to talk about, just our thoughts about how we can, and in particular, like in each person's, professional lives and also their personal lives, whether they're a parent or with young kids, like Katie's explained, or wherever it might be, is Vin, how do we generate a messaging that, especially in the backdrop of a lot of the politics that have gone on, which has really politicized this issue to a large degree? How do we centralize the message as a community type of driven message? I was the mayor of our town of Cumberland for 12 years. When 9/11 came, and we all experienced 9/11 in some shape or form, at least maybe Victoria and Ben were not were not around as the young kids, but we all experienced that, and communities came together. They said, we're going to fight that damn enemy that just launched the planes into our buildings and attacked us, and terrorist attack. Well, we're being attacked right now, in a way, and the virus is the enemy, and I have not really seen that community, getting together in a way that is saying we're gonna defeat that virus. We're gonna do that. So thoughts on maybe where you've seen examples of where that might be happening in your community, but also thoughts about how we might be able to, cultivate that community spirit that, that I only compare to like 9/11 in terms of how organically communities came together. Leaders, I just followed, I provided leadership, but I basically followed what the public really was pushing for, the community was pushing for. What do you think?
Well, I mean, one thing I'm certain, or two things I'm certain of, and Ben, you know what I'm going to say. One of them, Cranston West, absolutely came together as a community, and the Cranston school systems have come together as a community, and and to say to the students and the parents, through literature, through emails, through Zoom calls, we can do this. The teachers have gone above and beyond. So I know that in some of the schools that people are definitely going above and beyond to bring people together. In Coventry, I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. Again, I'm so fortunate to work with two superintendents, one in Coventry and one in Cranston, that are truly amazing. And they really care about their student body and the people who work for them. So because they think like that, the point I'm trying to make is, they're being role models for their principals. And then the principals are being role models for the vice principals, and so on and so forth. And it goes down to the teachers. So when a teacher walks in a room, like myself on the front line, as far as in the teaching program, if I'm negative and I think that, things are so bad and we're never going to make it through this, the 30 kids that are in front of me, or excuse me, now 15 to 20 kids that are in front of me, they're going to see me and do what I do, whether it's good, whether it's bad, negative, or positive. Governor, the schools are definitely bringing the community together. And it's funny, I think Katie mentioned it about something to do with the parents, who, all of a sudden they have this homework assignment that their child has to do. We're living that every day. But a lot of teachers can appreciate that. They understand that, and they reach out to the parents. So it's happening. Yeah.
I'll tell you, Ben, I think that it's good to be sharing that. When I go around and see some of the businesses and some of them are doing good, I say, that's great. That's great. So if there's things that we can package in different communities and share that out, whether it's schools kind of impacting the other parents or families or Little League programs or chorus groups or whatever it is, I think that an example like you just shared is very powerful and very important. What do you think about the vaccination issue? Are we going to get that to the teachers quick enough, or what you thinking on that?
I don't know. At 50, almost 60 years old, I really am looking forward to getting vaccinated. Speaking from someone who my whole life has had a job that I had to go into, no matter what the weather was, no matter what the circumstances, whether it was being in the Marine Corps or a prison guard, and now I'm a teacher. I really have no choice. So I think people who have no choice need to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
So, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that, I share that. I am concerned that because I know that everything interrelates. The health issues interrelate with the economy issues. The school interrelates with the health, with the economy. They all kind of blend together. And unless you get it right on all those three fronts, schools, economy, and the health safety, it's going to be difficult to move everybody forward. So the vaccinations are very important. I know that. So when I was a mayor, we had a CERT team in our community, which for those who are listening, those are people who are trained, volunteers who train on many different levels. Sometimes it's a flu clinic. Sometimes it might be addressing some other health issues in the town, other crisis issues, and they're trained volunteers. And right now, I know that my chief of staff currently right now is Tony Silva, who was a police chief during the time that I was mayor in Cumberland, and he's been very well equipped and he's headed up the CERT team, as a assistant emergency management director for the public safety director. And we're planning right now in the town of Cumberland a full vaccination of all our teachers through that, when the supply comes. So hopefully that's happening in every community, Coventry or Smith, or Cranston, because I think that is a high priority. And it's not just the teachers, it's the people who work in the schools, right, too, that you rely on, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'd love to follow up on that in terms of what you're doing on your school committee. And also as a teacher, because I think that's the connection that we're trying to make, is connecting all these 39 cities and towns and taking what's going on in the communities, like you said, where you're building this community spirit inside the schools, and share that in other communities as well.
I mean, Governor, two things. In Coventry, getting back to, trying to build a community up, our principal, Brooke Maycumber, she asked for volunteers. So we have maybe 300 or 400, 350 seniors. So all the teachers who volunteered literally went to all the seniors' house and put a lawn sign in, saying proud to be, Coventry High School student, class of blah, blah, blah. But it's things like that. Christmas time, all the seniors, volunteer teachers went out to their residents, dropped off presents to the seniors and cards and all kinds of things. So, things like that always, are good within the community, and it helps. Like Katie said, for us all to get through this. So,
yeah, those are good examples. Go ahead, Katie.
I was going to say, if I could, I'd like to build off Vin. So it's an interesting parallel between 9/11 and the virus. I think with 9/11, you had something to point out and say that's who did it. That's, with the virus, I feel as though, in social media, I think has made this worse. We're looking at each other, like when they were trying to figure out all the school stuff, everybody's saying the teachers don't want to go back to work. The teachers are saying, you don't want to watch your kid. Everybody was pointing at each other instead of kind of pointing at how do we work together? And I think what Lincoln, where my daughter goes, they did a good job of pivoting, and saying, okay, how can we make this work? Here are some options. And, even my daughter's teacher, I can reach out to her and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. I can't get these 16 pages done. And she says, okay, this is what, Savannah really needs to work on, or what she doesn't. And having those open dialogues and really working together to realize that we are not the enemies, we're not the problems. It's the virus, and we need to work around that and work together. And I love, Vin, what you're bringing up about like the cards and the lawn signs, because I think people feel like they have to spend a lot of money to make a huge impact, right? And you don't. I think one thing the pandemic has taught us is like how valuable time is, and time together and human connection is. So whether that's lawn signs that, maybe cost you $1 for a card or something like that, it's the time, the thought, the energy that you put in that really makes somebody and kind of stops them in their tracks and goes, wow, you thought about me. And I think that could bring a lot more positive energy to the community. Within our facility, I actually know of like members who sponsored other members because they know they lost their jobs, but they're the members who sponsored are frontline nurses who knew they were making extra money, or, they left stuff at the gym to support somebody who they knew had COVID. It just, I think that community feel and stopping to be aware of your surroundings and maybe what you can do to help one another, but also that just because somebody has an opinion on something, they're not the enemy, that like it's the virus, and how do we get past that? If we could all put that aside, I think that would put us leaps and bounds of where we are.
Yeah, Katie, that's so true. I agree. I'm looking at Ben in Victoria, and I'm thinking of Eddie Brady, who I'm sure you guys will. At the beginning of this, probably a month into it, when people were really like, oh my God, like Katie was saying, who's the enemy? I remember I look out on my lawn and I see a sign that says, we'll get through this together. And I knew, Victoria, Ben, I knew exactly for 1 second, my kids are like, Dad, who did that? My wife's, who would have put that? I said, there's only one guy I know with a heart this big, and he went around and put signs on everybody's lawn just because he knew that, people will, getting down on all of this pandemic stuff. But anyways, you guys are lucky to have him as one of your bosses.
Yeah. So Victoria and Ben, you certainly represent a different age category than I do, and I would say Vin as well. I think Katie's probably in that fringe area there a little bit. But tell us about the not in the my fringe area, Katie. I'm talking about these kids. So so tell us a little bit about the circles that you run in and the people that you're in and the experiences there in terms of are there examples of that kind of that positive energy that Katie and Vin are talking about, or do you think that there's a dismissal of the issue that might be compounding the problem? Either side is a good conversation, and as I said, we'll stay safe, stay positive. So Vin and Katie are bringing a lot of positive energy here to this conversation. I'm loving it, and but we got to test negative, and so so we got to really realize that our behavior impacts that testing. But yeah, share a little bit, Victoria, and Ben weigh in a little bit too as well in terms of the central groups that you actually are, communicating with, socializing with.
I think it's been a little of both. I think we've had a huge community support, and there's a lot of people that know Ed Brady and our other owner, Jeff, and a lot of people who love the Thirsty Beaver, and they've come out and supported us since the very beginning back in May all the way until now. And they have tipped higher, and they have been generous and supported us, and they get takeout. And then there's the people too who I feel are hurting us, and we get sometimes a younger crowd that they come in and drink, and they don't want to wear their mask, and they don't want to listen, and we have to repeat ourselves, and they don't realize that they're only hurting us, because the more that they don't listen and the more that they don't comply, then we get the stricter guidelines and we lose the capacity, we lose the customers. So the only people that suffer are the staff.
Yeah. So knowing that and knowing the realities that we're dealing with, Victoria, and also understanding that I think that demanding behavior of people doesn't work, and then also chastising them or beating them up doesn't really work. So what might work, or how are you handling that so that you can communicate to people that what happens in their lives impacts what happens in your life?
We just try and be really friendly with everyone. We keep masks at the door in case people don't have them. We offer them at the door when they come in. Surprisingly, a lot of the people we've been seeing for years, we know them. They've become friends. They've become family, and they're customers that we see every Friday and every Saturday. So sometimes, we can just talk to them and be like, hey, can you please just wear the mask? It's for us.
Yeah. And I think that, in those scenarios and we have them all in our lives. We had friends over the holidays that decided to kind of join each other at a kind of a family gathering. And, 9 out of the 10 have just been tested positive for COVID. So it happens in everybody's lives. They have there's individuals that are still taking risks without taking the precautions that those risks, demand. Ben, your thoughts too, in terms of the crew that you would, run around with, socialize with, and, what's the perspective there in terms of the positive nature that Vin and Katie just talked about, but also the challenges that maybe are presented because of a perspective on the virus that, doesn't quite understand that when they behave a certain way, it impacts Katie's business. It impacts the ability for Vin to kind of have 30 kids in the classrooms to teach them that they need. So what's your thinking on it?
Right. Well, I think Victoria said it best. I've been at the Beaver since I was a busboy, and that was 4 years ago. With that being said, I see a lot of the same people that come in, and if, for some reason ever on a Friday or Saturday night, people just get a little out of hand, it helps that I've known them and seen these familiar faces for so long, where I can just simply just tell them and talk to them as friends.
Yeah.
I only know them because they come into the community so often, and it helps that, we have that bond with people that want to support small businesses. And I feel like now more than ever, that's the trend, is there's people that want to stay home and they don't feel safe, and that's completely fine. Everyone can understand that, but there's some people that only want to support small businesses because they know that we need it, and we need it now more than ever. So the people that come out and support small business, and they'll come in and they'll sit at that table and they'll wear the mask the whole time, even though they don't need to wear it the entire time when they're at the table. They do it anyway because they feel, they want to feel safe, but they also want to, follow through with that mission and support small business. And that goes so far.
Yeah. I think that what you're describing, all three of us, is this grassroots, bottom up leadership that you're all providing in your own way. And, to be able to identify that, like through Vin's stories and Katie's and yours as well, Ben and Victoria, and then capitalizing on that and sharing that, I believe that what you just described in terms of safety issues carries far more weight than I would have had as a mayor. In terms of insisting or trying to signal in. It's the people on the ground that are going to really drive this messaging in terms of the safety, staying positive, like I said, but also making sure that we test negative as we kind of work our way through the vaccines, as Vince said, in terms of where we need to hit the priorities and that type of thing. But I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I don't know, I'll give kind of a last word to everybody as they're kind of thinking through this conversation in terms of the impact personally and professionally, and any guidance you want to give me as we as to kind of move forward in this discussion. But Vin, thank you so much for being here tonight. Final words, coach, teacher, school committee member. I want to tell you, my wife Susan is a career teacher as well, and she was on a virtual learning today with 6-7-year-olds, with the reading. So I live it, and that's why I, have such a high level of respect, obviously, with the work that you do and all teachers do. But give us your thoughts. You're kind of thinking about, how we move forward, and what do we do, and how do we make this, make sure that we recover from this real challenge that we've faced for now almost 9 months, right?
Yeah, it's been all of that plus. I just like to say first, I appreciate you bringing all of these issues to the surface, Governor. Victoria and Ben, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the small businesses. Katie, I appreciate the gyms and the wraparound services that you provide. Personally, I couldn't wait until the gyms opened. I think it's so important, but I just want to say I appreciate you guys, all of you. And I think if everyone has that same mentality, we'll be okay. We'll get through it. That's really all I have, but thank you.
Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your leadership on a school committee too. That's really, really important work, and more difficult than ever, quite frankly, because of the complications that we have, and trying to figure out how to, reach as many kids as we can, and because their futures are on the line as well in terms of, how well we actually kind of figure it out for them. So thanks for that, Vin. Appreciate it. Katie, last words with you.
Yeah, and Vin, thank you for that shout out. I appreciate you too. I don't envy you with the school committee, but I do think, as a teacher and a coach, you must be part of the happiest part of the day for those kids. And Victoria, I thank you for putting yourselves out there. I love the Beaver, and Lieutenant Governor for having me yet again. I think my last words are, as you're going out into the world, be gracious and kind to one another, be kind to your servers, be kind to the people that are trying to help you, your teachers, anybody, but also know that, especially from a small business perspective, in order for Rhode Island to stay the awesome, unique place it is, we need the businesses. We need, the young folks who are working hard at the restaurants. We need, people like Vin on the school committee to stick with it and want this job after the pandemic. So support them. Know that, people are working hard to keep you safe. So come to the businesses. Try, if you can, to not shop at the big box stores. Come to the small businesses and support. And when you do, just be kind and know that that person got up today knowing that they could be infected by somebody else's bad decisions. So they put themselves out there to serve you, and, be gracious, be kind, and try to support where you can.
Thanks, Katie. Victoria and Ben, last word with you.
Well, thank you guys so much for having us. And I appreciate you guys so much, because I feel like you are both in an industry that definitely got hit the hardest, along with the restaurant industry. And you guys, I know that must be struggling incredibly to get back up on your feet and get in school and run your gym. Ben couldn't wait to go back to the gyms when
I was counting down the days to go to the gym. I couldn't wait.
But I've been lucky enough to see both ends of the healthcare industry and also the restaurant industry, and they're both suffering right now, and it's hard to watch on both ends. And I think that we have to be safe, and hopefully, everyone can get the vaccine soon, and I think it'll really help us. But small businesses crumbling and losing money is just as detrimental as, anything else.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Ben.
Yeah, I think Victoria summed it up. I really do appreciate both. I appreciate your professions. I had a teacher like you growing up, and I never forgot him. I went to school pretty much just to see that guy. So, what you do, it goes a long way. And I don't want you to ever think it doesn't, because a lot of those kids, they'll never tell you because they don't want it to go to your head, but they really do. Katie, what you do is phenomenal, because without gyms, well, I wouldn't look like this. I really do appreciate you. It's just a struggle for everybody. And I think if we can all just stay positive and get up and just work as hard as we possibly can, we'll get through this. So thank you guys for having us, and we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll just give a shout back to all four of you, that the positive energy you shared tonight, that's going to carry over with the people who are watching this. We live in a world that sometimes the negative kind of really, gets, blown up. For you to be positive at this point in time, and the way you approach the things in a realistic way, but very, putting that positive touch. Thank you for that. That's energy. That's energy we all need right now, because we can't get fatigued. Just like I said, Vin, before, our players, they can't get fatigued at the end of a game. That's when we dig the deepest, and that's when we actually push through the finish line. And that's where we are right now. So thanks for sharing tonight. We'll definitely be in touch with all of you, and appreciate, your time that you spent and the stories that you shared. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks.
See you guys.
Yeah. So, I'll just finish it up by stay safe and stay positive. And what you just heard was good stories about how to stay positive, and we need to do and reinforce that. And make sure we test negative in 2021, and we should be doing everything we can to make that happen. Our schools will get open, our businesses will be open, and our health will be on the right track. And that's what we want to have happen. So thanks for joining the community conversation. We'll be at the Small Business Town Hall, the virtual town hall, on Tuesday at noontime, and we'll be back here next week. Thanks for joining us.